Okay, so welcome back to the channel. It's been quite a long time since we've had a new video to put up, for lots of different reasons. One of those reasons is because we have been spending a bit of time on the bodywork. So the front bumper's been cleaned up now, polished, machined, everything else. So that's all looking really nice. Now we're going to be going back to the engine and ways that we can improve things. So one of the things I often get asked is about free horsepower. So, are there ways and things that you could do to actually improve the horsepower of your Insignia, Astra, whatever, without actually spending bucketfuls of money? Yes, there are. I mean, your gains are not going to be huge, but, you're going to get a couple of brake horsepower, maybe a little bit of improved drivability. So when the car's actually built, the manufacturer, as we all know, follows a pretty basic set of rules, and that is reliability, fuel economy, quietness, etc., etc. Well, you can compromise some of those things to improve power. How far you want to compromise them is a very personal choice. For me in the past, obviously, I've compromised it a great deal when I've built cars with huge power. You do tend to compromise drivability. These days, a little bit more grown up, I'm happy to compromise a little bit, but actually the truth is I want the best of both worlds. So what I actually want is I want reliability, I want good fuel economy, I want extra power, I want earlier boost, just because I'm greedy. Okay, so how can we get free brake horsepower, free extra brake horsepower with the Insignia without doing a whole lot to it? Okay, so one of the easiest things is the airbox. So the airbox on the Insignia sits on the left-hand side of the wing. Like most cars, it has a cold air feed, which actually runs out of the bottom of the airbox, and it runs normally to the front of the vehicle. So it actually sits sort of here in behind the grille. Now, it's a really rubbish design, if I'm honest, because the pipe comes down, it comes out of the bottom of the airbox, a little bit like a snorkel, and it kind of comes round, and then it sits here just in the airflow. There's no scoop or anything like that. It just is sucking air from this general area. The benefit is obviously it's cold, because the air is blasting in through the front of the vehicle, so it's getting a cold air feed, which is what the manufacturer would say is the whole point. Now, the thing is with a cold air feed is that a cold air feed, simply because it's a long snorkel type affair, will actually restrict airflow a little, because obviously, the engine's having to pull the air in through that cold air feed, then into the bottom of its airbox, then through all the piping into the turbo. So what I'm suggesting, and what I've actually done on mine, is I've actually removed the cold air feed from the bottom of the airbox. So all of a sudden now the engine doesn't have to pull air through this additional pipe, which is coming from right over here all the way around the front and into here. Now, obviously, if you can imagine trying to breathe through a straw, the longer the straw is, the more difficult it's going to be to breathe. Now you're thinking, well, what about cold air? We're not getting cold air now, so that's going to negate any advantage of not having to pull that air through that pipe. Not so. The actual airbox, the bottom of the airbox, is quite well designed, and it actually sits. I'm not going to pull everything apart so you can see it, but the airbox has got a section of it which actually sits in the inner wing. So it's actually pulling cold air from in behind this plastic cover. Now, the air comes in through the front of the vehicle. Now, obviously, mine's a little bit different, but it comes in through the front of the vehicle. This section here, where that bottom of that airbox is full of cold air anyway. So, you're getting all the cold air that you need. We're not having to worry about water, because obviously, even though we're pulling air in from effectively around the wheel here, the whole wheel is covered by a plastic trim anyway. So it's really simple. It's going to take you about 10 minutes. You are going to have to remove the front bumper, but literally all you need to do is remove the front bumper, unclip that long pipe, which is literally about 3 feet long, and there you've got an instant improvement in air being able to be pulled into the airbox. The other thing that I've done is you've got your condenser and radiator pack. Now, basically, the standard intercooler is a reasonably decent piece of kit, but it is sandwiched behind the air conditioning condenser. Now, what you can actually do, believe it or not, is the way that the whole setup is built is that you can actually move the air conditioning condenser into the position that the intercooler would normally sit in, and the intercooler you can move forward so it actually then sits right at the front and gets the maximum amount of air without even having to change anything at all other than unclipping a few plastic pieces, unclipping a few hose clips and moving that intercooler forward, probably about 3 or 4 inches. Then all of a sudden it's getting a clean shot of air straight into it. The air is not having to go through the air conditioning condenser in order to get to the intercooler in the first place. Obviously, as we all know, a drop in inlet temperatures means an improvement in the amount of oxygen going into your engine. The more oxygen we can get in there, the more fuel's going to get burnt. It's just that simple. So on cars that are remapped, you know, especially stage 1, stage 2, the more oxygen we can get in, the better. So both of those mods on a standard car are going to improve things ever so slightly. On a car with a stage 1 or a stage 2, it's going to give you an even bigger improvement. So do it. You know, for those of you who are thinking, well, my air conditioning doesn't work anyway, well, remove the condenser and find a nice little corner for it to sit in. And if it's damaged or if it's leaking, throw it in the bin and don't use it, okay? You know, yes, you're not going to have air conditioning. If you do fancy putting air conditioning back in, or you'd like to retain your air conditioning, put it in behind the intercooler. Are you going to find that your air conditioning doesn't work as well? Yes, you are. But it's not going to be massive, okay? So you are going to get that little improvement in horsepower without having to spend any money. All you're going to have to do is take off the front bumper, remove that pipe from the bottom of the airbox, and move the intercooler into the place that the condenser currently sits in, and then put the condenser in behind the intercooler. It all clips in, doesn't require any piping or anything like that. It's literally free brake horsepower. And just for future reference, the reason that we're working on the car at the moment is because we're actually sticking a ball bearing turbo in it. So hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll have another video talking all about that.